Anyways, guys, thanks so much for joining us here today. We are continuing session number 2 of our QTP Automation Frameworks webinar. Let me pull up the PowerPoint and just wanted to give anybody who is new a quick overview about qtptutorial.net. So we are a team of automation engineers or specialists who gather together to help master everybody QTP automation. We have a good amount of skills, or I guess as we would like to believe we do. We worked with all sorts of companies, anywhere from 6 people to international companies. We worked in agile environments, waterfall environments, and a lot of hybrids that try to adapt some kind of new methodology and then end up working in the middle. We automated full and hybrid keyword-driven frameworks from scratch, and that includes anything like MS Office automation from Word, Excel, so on. Web services automation. We've obviously done GUI automation, which is very standard. Windows operating system automation, ALM, QC, and there's probably a lot more that I don't need to waste time on. We also have a good amount of knowledge of a whole bunch of tools. Obviously QTP, since we're teaching it. We've done automation with iMacros, Visual Studio, Selenium, JMeter, and I'm probably missing a few that I can't remember right now. So as you guys can see, we are a pretty specialized, pretty knowledgeable team. So we hope that our knowledge and our experience will be transferred over to you guys, and that we will decrease your learning curve by teaching you everything that we have learned so that you guys don't make the same mistakes that we made along the way, and that you can learn much faster because we have all that knowledge to share. Okay, so the prerequisites for this tutorial, guys. Now, this topic, as in frameworks, we are discussing kind of a hybrid keyword-driven framework. This is the gold standard of automation. If you can create a framework from scratch, you will be highly desired for any automation position. So what does that all mean? Well, it means that the knowledge level required to understand the framework must be expert, because I'm not expecting anybody here to just jump in to the frameworks and be able to completely understand everything. It would be like me teaching calculus without teaching you, algebra, geometry, regular mathematics. You won't be able to comprehend anything if you're just thrown into calculus without all the prerequisite knowledge. And so here, this is the gold standard. So obviously, you will require a ton of expert knowledge in order to be able to follow us. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that beginners should not be here. What it means is that beginners will learn a lot, and you guys will see the ultimate goal where you want to go. And so it's kind of great because it gives you a high-level overview of where you need to be, and so you can work towards it little by little. And even if you're a beginner, you will still learn a lot here, but it may be overwhelming. It may be like you're learning Chinese or some other language that you don't understand. So just don't freak out, guys. It takes time. Frameworks are such a complicated process. Some companies, spend years developing frameworks. So just, be patient, and the knowledge will come to you guys. So along those lines, if you are an expert, your VB scripting skills must be excellent. You need excellent understanding of QTP. You need expert knowledge of a framework architecture, which we actually described last time. So if you guys missed that, be sure to catch that video. It was Automation Frameworks Part 1. You need expert knowledge of the software development lifecycle. And I think overall, you just need expert knowledge of programming practices. And those just come to you as you become an expert. But like I said, if you are not an expert in any of those or just a few of those, don't be scared. You guys will still learn a ton. So the plan for today is we're going to pick up where we left off after session 1. Again, if you missed it, it's over here on this link, qtptutorial.net/webinar-replay. And today we are going to discuss the driver script in detail. Now, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get through this whole topic just because frameworks will take weeks. We can discuss them for weeks in order for you guys to comprehend every single piece. But I will do my best to cover everything possible. So let's finally get to the meat of the topic, the JavaScript. We discussed the JavaScript in pretty good detail last time in the first video, so you can go there to check that out. And here, I just want to give you guys some pointers, some guidelines to follow to make sure that your JavaScript is what it should be. So first is it must be reusable for any environment. What does that mean? It means that if I take your JavaScript, you should be able to take it from one job to the next job and just drop it in place and attach, some XMLs, some data. In fact, let me pull out that diagram to show you guys. So here's the JavaScript, what we discussed last time. It should be usable in any environment, meaning that if you drop this into any job and you attach a function library to it, a startup script, a data layer, and run it, it should run. You should not need to do absolutely anything to the JavaScript. It should be externally configurable, and all it would require is for you to run the startup script, and once you run it, your JavaScript will run. That's what I mean, that it should run in any environment. It must be flexible. This is kind of along those lines that it must be reusable for any environment, meaning that, if you plug in one data sheet or another data sheet, it needs to be able to accept them. If you plug in one XML or another XML, it should accept those XMLs. It should be able to handle whatever data you throw at it and whatever errors arise. Also, the JavaScript should be externally configurable. So what does that mean? It means that once you have the code developed for your JavaScript, how you configure it is by your startup script, your data layer, your function libraries, and that's how you guys configure it. You don't touch the JavaScript. You leave it alone, it sits in place, it runs, it executes your logic, and the only way to change what it does is by these three layers, okay? And obviously I will explain all of this in further detail. This is just kind of a few guidelines. And if you guys got question marks in your head right now, don't worry, we'll go through it. Cool, so let's open up the spreadsheet. This is one of the keys to a keyword-driven framework is a data spreadsheet. I prefer to use an Excel because it's user-friendly. It's easy to use for anybody such as ourselves or non-technical people, or it's great for management to look at. So that's what I prefer. I think a lot of automation specialists prefer this method. I have seen other things done such as an XML, maybe some kind of config file, but those tend to get a little messy, and obviously they are not very friendly to the eye. They are hard to analyze and hard to use. So this is a much simpler approach to controlling all of your test cases. So in this data sheet, what's important is we have at least two sheets. We have a test cases sheet that's going to contain all of the test cases that we want to create. So if I want to add more test cases here, I can, such as like that. This is another test case, and so on and so forth. And I can continue adding test cases as many as I want. And we have a test steps sheet. In the test steps sheet, it's just like your manual testing process, right? You have a test case, and then you have your test steps that you perform for that test case. And so we have a test case ID that corresponds to the test case sheet, and for that, we have some steps that are performed. So now what I want to do, guys, is I want to take you logically through the whole process of executing a scenario or two through the JavaScript. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through it logically. I'm going to write out the steps, and then I will transform that into code. And this is the best practice, guys. This is what's known as writing pseudocode. You have to plan before you write your code. The best developers, the best code designers, they don't just sit down and start writing code. You need to plan. It's very important. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to lay out that logic here. And then if you're familiar with VBscript and how QTP works, it's pretty easy then to take that English and transform it into the right code. So first thing that I want to do as a driver script. In fact, let me show you that, guys. Oh, by the way, I still have my UFT trial license. We're going to be playing with UFT today, which is really awesome. Some of you guys may not have it. Don't freak out. It's a little bit different than QTP. It's a lot more enhanced. As you guys can see, it looks a lot better. We have videos that introduce you to everything that I like, how to install it and so on, even how to get the free trial version. But otherwise, it performs almost the same as QTP 11 and below that. So don't worry, everything else is the same. Just the look and feel is different. So here's the driver script, guys. As you guys can see, it has, about 150 lines of code. Not too bad. This logic in here is not too difficult to develop. And once it's developed, it just stays and you never have to redevelop it again. The only thing you need to add is select case statements that will deal with your individual keywords, but we'll get to all of that. So let's go through our spreadsheet and figure out this logic for the driver script. So first thing I want to do as a driver script, if I'm QTP, is I want to import this spreadsheet, right, so that I have all of the data. Pseudocode. So step one, import the data sheet. Next step that I want to perform is once I have it imported, I want to go into this test cases sheet and I want to run from the second row up until the end of the file, right? This is where a lot of people may make mistakes. It's called hard coding. They may, for example, run it from 2 until row 14. But what happens when you add this many more test cases? Now, these test cases will always be ignored. So what you have to do is develop logic to run from the first row to the last row, okay? Oh, by the way, guys, I was going to say, if you have any questions, please hold them until the end. Write them down. I'll leave about 10 minutes for questions. I know you guys will have a lot, and if you guys have any more, I will tell you exactly where to leave your questions, and we will be sure to get to everything, okay? So don't worry. Just keep track of your questions. I don't want to stop. I want to give you guys as much content as I can because our webinar is only 1 hour long. And then if you guys have more questions after, we can cover those externally from the webinar, and then that way I give you guys as much content as I can in as little amount of time as we got. Okay, so now that we ran from here up until the end of the sheet, what do? We want to capture the test case ID, okay? So I'm running from here to here, and I get my test case ID. Once I have my test case ID, which is the unique identifier between every single sheet, guys, if we had data sheets here, more data sheets like I showed in the last time video how you may have sheets for a hybrid framework or data-driven framework. You may have many more. You will need a unique test case ID that corresponds to everything here. That's the only way to traverse from sheet to sheet. So next step is to go into the test steps sheet. And here, you will also need to run from the first row to the last row. Okay, run the code from the first row to the last row. And what are you going to do as you're running? You're going to check to see if the test case ID in this test steps sheet matches to the test case ID in the test cases sheet. So in this case, it does. Okay? So you check to see if it matches. If it does match, what you need to do is come over to the keyword column and execute that keyword. And execute this keyword. And this keyword is called in a select case statement, and it will do something. It's a function. The definition of it is in the function library, and I need to learn how to spell. Okay? So you execute this keyword, and it's a predefined function that exists in your function library. So for example, check it out. I have my select case statement here, and here's the keyword, open home page. If I go to the function definition, it does some stuff. I decided what it does. And the spreadsheet doesn't care about what this does. As long as this logic is in your JavaScript, then the function will be executed. That's it. It's as simple as having your function in here in the JavaScript, right, and executing them. It's the same thing as doing this. But all you're doing is correlating some keyword, which in my case, what I like to do is make the keyword the same as the function name. And so you take this keyword and you just put it into a spreadsheet. And so when the spreadsheet sees that keyword, it knows to execute the same function. And then that function runs, it does some stuff, returns a result, and we continue on our way. So let me see if I summarize all that.